Welcome back to the deep dive. I have to be honest with you, when I first looked at this stack of research for this week, I uh I thought there had been some kind of mistake.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at these translations, these, theological papers, and then right smack in the middle of it all, a book that I haven't touched since I was probably 17
Let me guess.
and desperately trying to pass English Lit.
Mm.
We are talking about Homer's The Iliad.
The big one. The bedrock of Western literature, really.
It is the bedrock. But here is where I got stuck, and where I think you, the listener, might get stuck too. We're usually here to break down, modern complexities, tech, politics, science.
Things from this century.
Exactly. Why are we dusting off the 3,000-year-old poem about bronze armor and, frankly, very angry men? And even more specifically, why are we pairing it with a source titled From Rage to Reconciliation that claims this pagan war story is actually a mirror for Christian virtue?
It sounds like a contradiction in terms, doesn't it?
It sounds like a massive stretch. I remember the Iliad. It's bloody, it's violent,
Yeah.
the gods are unbelievably petty, and Achilles, the supposed hero, well, he's a jerk.
That's a very common takeaway.
So the mission statement for this deep dive, to find out how the arc of Achilles inspires the pursuit of Christ-likeness, it just feels like trying to find a vegan menu at a steakhouse. It seems impossible.
That's a fair skepticism. And honestly, if you read the Iliad just as an action movie in verse, which is, let's be honest, how it's often taught,
That's exactly how I remember it.
then you're right. It's just carnage. But the analysis we're looking at today argues that we're reading it wrong. Or maybe more accurately, we're stopping too soon.
Stopping before the redemption, is that what you mean?
Exactly. We all remember the fighting, the battles, the rage. But we forget the structure. The core argument here is that Homer built a very specific moral architecture into the poem.
A moral architecture.
He takes us into the absolute depths of human depravity, what he gives a very specific name, mourning, and then very carefully, line by line, he constructs a ladder back up.
A ladder towards what?
Towards something that looks a lot like grace. No, it's not the gospel, let's be clear. But it is a profound, almost startling preparation for it.
Okay. I'm skeptical, but I'm listening. If we're going to find Christ-likeness in a guy who slaughters armies for a living, we have a lot of ground to cover. We have the A.S. Klein translation of the text, and we have this theological breakdown. Where do we even start?
We have to start where Homer starts, with the first word.
The first word of the poem.
Seriously.
The very first word in the original Greek. We usually gloss over those opening lines, Sing, goddess, the anger of Peleus' son Achilles. It just sounds like a standard epic intro.
Right, tell me the story.
But that word for anger is doing a tremendous amount of heavy lifting. It's the key to the whole thing.
Okay, so what is the word?
Mourning.
Mourning.
Yeah.
And that translates to anger.
See, that's the trap. In ancient Greek, there are lots of words for anger. You have cholos, which is like a sudden flare-up. You get mad and you yell.
Like road rage. Kind of. And you have kotos, which is more like a grudge you hold on to, a simmering resentment. But mononin, that is radioactive. In the entire Greek literary canon, monin is almost exclusively reserved for the gods.
So it's not human anger. You're saying it's something else entirely.
It's cosmic wrath. It's the kind of rage that alters the landscape. It's what Apollo feels when he decides to send a plague and wipe out an army. It's a force of nature.
And Homer uses this word.
In line 1 of the Iliads, Homer attributes this god word to a mortal man, to Achilles.
So right out of the gate, Homer is telling us that Achilles is something unnatural. Something's wrong with him.
He's telling us that Achilles has stepped out of the human order. He has tapped into a destructive power that humans aren't meant to hold, and the result is immediate catastrophe.
That's where the next line comes in.
The text says this Meononin brought countless pains upon the Achaeans and sent many valiant souls of heroes down to Hades,
leaving their bodies as carrion for the dogs and birds. I've always found that line so disturbing.
Yeah.
It's not just that they died, it's that they were treated like garbage. No dignity.
That's the baseline of the poem. That's our starting point. We are starting in a world that is fundamentally broken. It's a world defined by pride, violence, and the total desecration of the human body. That's what mourning does.
So let's set the scene for the listener. Why does this mourning start? What pushes Achilles over the edge? Because like I said, I remember it starting with a fight over a girl, which just feels incredibly petty.
It is petty, and that's a huge part of the tragedy. But we need to look at the context. We are 9 years into the war against Troy. The Greeks are stuck on a beach, they are tired, morale is low, and then a plague hits the camp.
And this isn't just, people getting sick. The description in book 1 is absolutely terrifying.
It is. Listen to how the translation describes the god Apollo coming down from Mount Olympus. Down he came, darker than night. Just that phrase alone. And then listen to the sound, and the silver bow clanged, fearsome and loud, on his shoulders as he moved.
That's a horror movie. You're hearing the monster before you see it.
It is. And notice what he targets first. This is a crucial detail. First, he loosed his vicious darts at the mules and the swift dogs.
Why the animals? That seems so random.
It's a systematic dismantling of domestic order. The mules carry the supplies. The dogs guard the camp. Apollo is stripping away their civilization layer by layer before he even touches the men.
He's unmaking their world.
He is. And then he turns the arrows on the men. The text says, the pyres of the dead burned close together, crowded day and night. You have to imagine the smell, the smoke, the constant screaming. The camp is literally dissolving into chaos.
And the reason for all this death, the reason a god is this angry.
Because Agamemnon, the high king of the Greek forces, insulted a priest.
A priest named Chryses.
Right. Chryses is a priest of Apollo. He came to the Greek camp to ransom his daughter, Chryseis, who Agamemnon had taken as a war prize.
And he did everything by the book, didn't he?
He did everything right. He brought a huge amount of gold. He carried the sacred staff of the god. He made a polite, reasonable request to the whole army.
And Agamemnon, being the great diplomat that he is, basically told him to get lost.
It was much worse than that. He mocked him. He threatened him. He said, "Don't let me catch you here again, old man. I will not free her. She will grow old in my house, far from her native land." It's just an astounding act of hubris.
He kicks out a holy man.
And because of that one man's pride, the god strikes, and thousands of his own soldiers die.
So Achilles, seeing this disaster, he steps up. He calls a meeting to try and stop the plague.
Right. Achilles is the one who says, we need to figure out why this is happening. Let's consult a seer. They do, and the seer, Calchas, points the finger directly at Agamemnon.
It's your fault.
It's your fault. Agamemnon eventually, reluctantly, agrees to give the girl back to stop the dying, but his ego is so profoundly bruised that he has to lash out. He says, fine, if I lose my prize, I'm taking yours. I'm taking Briseis from you, Achilles.
And this is the moment. This is where the switch flips. This is where the mourning locks in.
It is, because for Achilles, this isn't just about a girl. It's about honor. It's about taem, as the Greeks called it. In their culture, your honor is physical. It's the stuff you win, the prizes you're given.
It's your public reputation made manifest.
Exactly. If Agamemnon takes that prize, he is publicly erasing Achilles' status. He is saying, you are nothing. Your accomplishments mean nothing. You are my tool.
So Achilles draws his sword. He almost kills the king right there in the assembly.
He almost does. The goddess Athena has to literally appear and grab him by the hair to stop him. But he stops. And instead, he does something that, in a way, is far more destructive.
He withdraws.
He withdraws. He goes to his tent. He sits down. And he prays to his mother, the sea goddess Thetis, to ask Zeus, the king of the gods, to let the Trojans win.
Wait, pause there. Let's make sure everyone gets this. He asks the king of the gods to help the enemy kill his own friends.
Yes. That's not an exaggeration. He wants his own side to bleed. He wants Agamemnon to look out over the battlefield and see a pile of Greek bodies so high that he finally realizes, oh, no, I shouldn't have insulted Achilles.
That is a narcissism so profound that it counts the lives of his comrades as nothing compared to his bruised ego.
That is the mourning. It eats everything. It isolates you from your community, from your loyalties, from your own humanity.
And this is the state of our hero. For the first two-thirds of the poem, he is just sulking in his tent while his friends die horribly.
Exactly. He's a black hole of rage, pulling everything down with him.
But something has to change. Because the deep dive today focuses on the end of the poem, and clearly Achilles doesn't stay in the tent forever. But, and this is a key part that I think people forget, he doesn't come back because he forgives Agamemnon.
No, not at all. He never forgives him.
He comes back because the war gets intensely personal. We can't talk about the end without talking about the middle. We have to talk about Patroclus.
We do. Patroclus is the one bright spot in Achilles' life, his best friend, his other half, really. While Achilles is hardening his heart, Patroclus is in the tent weeping for the Greeks dying outside.
He's the compassionate one.
He is. He finally begs Achilles, if you won't fight, at least let me wear your armor. Let me go out there and scare them off. The Trojans will think it's you.
And Achilles, in a moment of, I don't know, weakness, he agrees. Big is wrong.
horribly, tragically wrong. Patroclus fights brilliantly. He pushes the Trojans all the way back to their city walls, but he pushes too far. He gets to the walls of Troy, and Hector, the Prince of Troy, the greatest Trojan warrior, kills him.
And this is what changes the nature of the mourning.
Completely. Up until Book 18, the rage was cold, it was passive, it was, I'm not playing anymore. But when Achilles hears that Patroclus is dead, the rage turns hot. It turns into a firestorm.
He doesn't care about Agamemnon anymore.
Doesn't care about prizes, doesn't care about honor. He doesn't even care about his own life. He knows, because of prophecy his mother told him, that if he kills Hector, he is fated to die shortly after.
And he accepts it.
He says, then let me die now. All that exists for him is Hector's death.
This brings us to section 2 of our outline, the abyss. Because when Achilles returns to the battlefield in Book 20 and 21, he isn't fighting like a soldier anymore.
No, he's fighting like a natural disaster. He clogs the river Scamander with so many bodies that the river god himself rises up out of the water to complain.
He's literally fighting a river.
He's fighting creation itself. It's a slaughter on an epic scale, but it all focuses down and all narrows to one moment. Book 22, the confrontation with Hector.
This is the climax of the action. Hector is trapped outside the walls of Troy. His parents are on the walls, begging him to come inside, but he won't. And Achilles is coming for him.
And the source text points out a really crucial detail here, the scales of Zeus. Can we talk about that? Because I find that image haunting.
It's so cold.
It's one of the most famous images in the entire epic. Zeus, the father of gods and men, is watching from Olympus. He holds up a set of golden scales. He puts 2 fates of death in the pans. One for Achilles, one for Hector.
And what happens?
Down sank Hector's day of doom towards the house of Hades.
It's so mechanical. There's no appeal, there's no court case. The scale just tips.
That's the tragic worldview in a nutshell. Fate isn't a person you can argue with, it's gravity. The scale tips, and that's it. And the immediate result on Earth is terrifying. The text says, and Phoebus Apollo left him.
Apollo had been helping Hector, giving him stamina to run from Achilles. But the moment the scale tips,
The god just checks out. Sorry, pal, nothing I can do for you now. You're on your own.
Hector is utterly and divinely alone.
And then he stops running.
He stops running. He turns to face Achilles. And this interaction, what they say to each other right before the final fight, is absolutely crucial for understanding just how far Achilles has fallen.
Hector tries to be civilized, right? He knows he's probably going to die. But he tries to make a deal, a pact. He does. He appeals to what's known as the heroic code. He says, Achilles, I will not flee you anymore, but come, let us call the gods to witness our oaths. If Zeus grants me victory, I will strip your famous armor, but I will give your body back to the Greeks. You do the same for me.
It's a simple request. Don't let the dogs eat me. That's all he's asking for.
It's the most basic request for human dignity in this brutal world. And Achilles' response, it's not just a no, it's a complete and total declaration of inhumanity. I have the translation right here. Listen to this.
Okay.
He says, Hector, hated by me, talk not to me of compacts, as there are no faithful oaths between lions and men, nor do wolves and lambs have hearts of one accord, so there is no friendship possible between you and me.
Lions and men. He is explicitly identifying himself as the predator,
Yeah.
and Hector is prey. He's leaving the human species.
Yes, he is saying the rules that govern men no longer apply to me. I am not a man anymore, I am a beast, and you are meat.
And he even goes further, doesn't he?
Oh, he does. A few lines later, as Hector is dying, Achilles stands over him and says, I wish that my spirit and fury would drive me to hack your meat away and eat it raw.
Cannibalism.
It's the ultimate taboo. It's the final stop on the road of dehumanization. He wants to literally consume his enemy. That is the mourning, fully unleashed. It has stripped Achilles of everything that makes him human.
He kills Hector, obviously. But the killing, as you said, isn't enough to satisfy this kind of rage.
Not even close.
And this is the part that's so hard to read. The mutilation of the body.
It is grotesque. First, he lets all the other Greek soldiers come and stab the corpse, then he strips the armor, and then he slits the tendons behind both of Hector's feet from the heel to the ankle.
By there.
So he can thread oxhide straps through the holes, and he ties those straps to the back of his chariot.
And he drives.
He drives. He drags the body of the Prince of Troy, the protector of the city, through the dust in full view of his family.
The text focuses on the visual of it, doesn't it?
Sure.
The contrast.
It's heartbreaking. It says Hector's head, once so beautiful, is now tumbling in the dirt. His dark hair is fanned out, and his mother, Hecuba, is watching from the city wall, screaming and tearing her hair out. His father, Priam, has to be held back from running out into the battlefield.
And this isn't a one-time thing?
Yeah,
This goes on for days.
for days. Every morning, Achilles wakes up, still consumed by grief and rage, ties the body to the chariot, and drags it 3 times around the tomb of his friend Patroclus. He is trying to erase Hector. He is trying to turn a human being into an object of filth.
So, stopping here, if this is where we are, this is a bleak, bleak story.
Mhm.
If the Iliad ended at book 22 or even book 23 with the funeral games for Patroclus, the message would just be, war turns men into monsters and then they die.
Exactly. It would be a story of unremitting despair, a story where Monin wins, where the beast triumphs. But, and this is the whole reason we are doing this deep dive, Homer doesn't end it there. He writes book 24.
And the tone of book 24 it
It-
feels completely different. It's quieter, more somber.
It's a massive tonal shift. And it starts, interestingly enough, back where the whole mess began, with the gods. But this time, they aren't starting a war. They are stopping an atrocity.
Yeah, I was really surprised by this in the reading. Apollo, the same god who sent the plague in book 1, is the one who speaks up.
Hmm.
And he suddenly sounds like the moral compass of the universe.
He does. He looks down at Achilles, dragging the body day after day, and he is disgusted. He says to the other gods, "This man is a brute. He has lost all pity, and he has no shame."
Shame, he says, which does great harm to men or profits them. What a line.
It is. Apollo is basically saying, look, other men lose people they love. They lose a brother, a son, they weep, and then they stop. The fates gave mankind an enduring heart.
But Achilles, he's stuck. He's breaking the cosmic order by refusing to let the dead be dead.
So Zeus intervenes. But not with a lightning bolt, not with force.
No, it's much more subtle. He sends a message to Achilles' mother, Thetis, who then goes to her son and says, "The gods are angry, give the body back. Accept a ransom."
And at the same time, he sends his messenger, Iris, down to Priam, Hector's father, with an impossible command. Go to the Greek ships, alone, bring gifts, and ransom your son.
And this sets up the structural insight you mentioned at the start, ring composition. Now, we aren't literature professors, but this seems pretty cool and accessible. Can you break down how the end mirrors the beginning?
It's so elegant. It's like a perfect mirror image. Think back to book 1. What was the core scenario?
An old father Chryses comes to the Greek ships
To do what?
to ransom his child, his daughter.
And he brings gifts, right? He brings ransom. And he meets the head of the Greek army, Agamemnon.
And Agamemnon treats him with contempt and kicks him out. The result: plague, death, disaster, rage.
Perfect. Now look at book 24. An old Father Priam comes to the Greek ships.
To ransom his son, Hector.
He brings gifts, a whole wagon full of them, and he enters the tent of the greatest Greek warrior, Achilles.
So the setup is identical. We are basically taking the same test again.
Exactly. The universe, or Homer, has circled back to the exact same moral test. The old man at the ships scenario. Agamemnon failed the test. He chose pride, he chose wrath. Now it's Achilles' turn to choose. Will he be a lion, as he called himself? Or will he be a human?
That puts so much pressure on this one meeting. So Priam goes in. He has some divine help to get there.
Yeah.
The god Hermes guides him.
Yes, because it's a suicide mission. The king of Troy walking into the tent of the man who killed his son and is actively mutilating the body. It's unthinkable. But Hermes makes him invisible, gets him past the guards. He gets to the door of Achilles' hut.
And he walks in.
He walks in, and Achilles is sitting there just having finished a meal. The text describes the shock. They stared at each other in amazement.
And then Priam does something that, well, it's one of the most powerful moments in all of literature. He doesn't stand, he kneels, and he takes Achilles' hands.
The very hands that killed his son.
The text is so explicit about it. He kissed those terrible man-slaying hands that had killed so many of his sons. Just try to picture that. The physical intimacy with the murderer of your children.
It's an act of profound, almost impossible humility. And then he speaks. He doesn't talk about politics. He doesn't talk about the war. He says, remember your father Achilles.
God-like Achilles, remember your own father, who is of years like mine and on the doorstep of sorrowful old age.
That is the dagger. That is the perfect appeal. He forces Achilles to look at him not as Priam, king of Troy, my enemy, but as a reflection of Peleus, father of Achilles. He connects their suffering.
He builds a bridge of shared experience.
He does. He says, your father is waiting for you, but at least he has the hope that you're still alive. I have nothing. I have lost 50 sons. And the best of them, the one who guarded our city, you killed him yesterday.
And he finishes with that devastating line. I have endured what no other mortal on earth has endured, to bring my hand to the face of the man who killed my child.
And that breaks the dam. The mourning dissolves. The text says a desire for weeping seized Achilles. He takes the old man's hand, gently pushes him away, and they weep together.
This is the reconciliation. This is the turning point.
It is. But notice what they are reconciled in. They aren't reconciled because one of them won. They are reconciled by shared grief. Priam is weeping for Hector, and Achilles is weeping for his own father, whom he knows he will never see again, and for his friend Patroclus.
They are united by the fact that they are both mortal and that they are both losing everything.
Yes, and this leads to Achilles' response. He lifts the old man up, he seats him in a chair, and he gives that famous speech about the 2 jars of Zeus.
This feels like the philosophical core of the entire poem, doesn't it?
It absolutely is. Achilles says that on the floor of Zeus's palace stand 2 urns, 2 giant jars. One is filled with evil gifts, with sorrows. The other is filled with blessings.
And Zeus is the bartender.
He's the bartender of fate, and he mixes them. Sometimes he gives a man a mix of good and bad. Sometimes he gives a man only sorrow. But Achilles says nobody gets only blessings.
It's a heavy worldview. It basically says life is suffering. The gods are capricious, if not outright cruel. We are all in this meat grinder together.
It is the tragic worldview. There is no promise of all things working together for good. There is just endurance. But, and here's the key to the whole transformation, that shared tragedy creates the basis for pity.
The shared suffering creates empathy.
Precisely. The mourning, that godlike rage, relied on Achilles thinking he was special, that his pain was unique and all-important. Once he accepts that he is just another mortal who suffers, just like Priam, the rage has no fuel. It vanishes, and Ilias pity, empathy takes its place.
And he proves this shift with his actions, not just words. He gives the body back.
He does more than that. It's beautiful. He has his serving women take Hector's body, wash it, anoint it with oil, and wrap it in fine linen all out of Priam's sight so the old man won't see the wounds and get upset.
That's incredibly thoughtful.
And then he does something even more significant. He invites Priam to eat with him.
The shared meal.
Xenia.
Xenia. Guest friendship. The sacred bond between host and guest. They break bread. The man who wanted to eat Hector raw was now serving dinner to Hector's father. That is the transformation. That is the journey from beast back to man.
And he even promises a truce, right?
Yes. He asks Priam, how many days do you need for the funeral? Priam says 11. Achilles says, for 11 days the Greek army will not fight. You have my word. He guarantees the peace so they can mourn properly.
There is one detail the source brought up that I loved. It's about the ending, the very last line of the poem. Because for a poem called the Iliad, whose main character is Achilles, it doesn't end with Achilles.
No, it doesn't. The final line in the original Greek is, Hous hoija amphipon aphon hectorus hippodamoio. So they were tending the burial of Hector, tamer of horses.
We started the poem with the word rage. We ended with the word burial, monin to taphon. The entire moral journey of the poem is contained in the shift from the first word to the last, from chaotic, destructive wrath to ordered communal ritual.
And the name, Hector. Not Achilles. Why give the last word to the loser?
This is Homer's final judgment, his final moral statement. Think about the standard epithets for the 2 heroes. Achilles is always swift-footed Achilles, podostuktis.
Which implies speed, hunting.
It's a predator's name. It's about individual speed, violence, running people down for his own glory.
And Hector is horse-camer.
Hippodamoio. What is it to tame a horse? It is an act of civilization. You take a wild force of nature and you domesticate it. You make it useful for the community, for pulling a chariot, for farming.
So Hector's virtue is communal. Achilles is individual.
Exactly. Hector was the defender of the city. He was the husband, the father, the citizen. Achilles was the individual force of destruction living on a beach. By ending on Hector's name and Hector's epithet, Homer is saying that in the end, the rage burns itself out. What matters, what endures, what is truly honorable is the civilization, the community, the taming of chaos. The tamer gets the final honor, not the runner.
That is beautiful. It really reframes the whole poem, and it feels complete as a story. But now we have to make the jump. We have to pivot to the mission of this episode. We've seen the arc. Rage to reconciliation. How does this connect to the Christian listener? Because as we've said, Achilles isn't exactly Jesus.
No, absolutely not. And we need to be very, very careful here. The source material is adamant about not making Achilles a Christ figure in a direct one-to-one way. He's a killer, he's vain, he's deeply flawed. But the concept used is preparatio evangelica.
Which means preparation for the gospel.
Right. It's this old Christian idea that these Great pagan myths, these profound stories, create a shape in the human imagination. They ask a question, they create a void, a question mark, that the gospel eventually comes to fill.
Okay, so what is the shape, what's the question mark that the Iliad creates?
Well, I think it starts with its diagnosis of the human condition. The Iliad shows us a world that is perfectly and terrifyingly aligned with the biblical diagnosis of the fall.
The dead in transgressions and sins, as Paul says in Ephesians.
Exactly. Look at the world of the poem. It is ruled by pride, wrath, and death. It is nature red in tooth and claw. When the Bible says that we are by nature children of wrath, Achilles is the poster child for that. He shows us what the unchecked human ego, the old Adam, actually looks like. It looks like a man dragging a corpse in the dust.
Step one is, the Iliad proves we need help. It holds up a mirror to our own fallenness.
Yes. It proves that our own heroism isn't enough to save us. Our strength isn't enough. Our sense of honor isn't enough. Left to our own devices, even the greatest among us is just a beast waiting to happen. But then, in Book 24, we get what the source calls a shadow of grace.
Explain that. How is Achilles' act an act of grace?
Well, think about the simplest definition of grace. It is receiving a gift you do not deserve. Did Priam deserve the body back by the rules of war?
Absolutely not. He lost. To the victor go the spoils. Achilles had every legal, cultural, and military right to keep that body and let it rot.
Exactly. Just as pagan justice, the justice of this world, said, keep it, let it be eaten by dogs. But Achilles suspends justice. He sets aside his rights to offer mercy. That is a shadow of the gospel. It's the moment where the cycle of vengeance is broken not by force, but by a free, unmerited gift.
And the source draws a parallel to the New Testament command to love your enemies.
It does, and this is the challenge. If Achilles, who did not have the Holy Spirit, who did not have the Sermon on the Mount, who lived in a brutal honor and shame culture, if he could find the capacity to weep with his enemy and see the image of his own father in him.
Then what's our excuse?
Exactly. It sets a bar. It says even the pagans in their darkest moments could understand that our shared mortality should lead to mercy. How much more should those of us who believe in a shared redemption?
But, and here is the critical but that the source highlights, there is a limit. The Iliad prepares us, but it can't save us.
Right, and this goes back to Achilles' speech about the two jars. Achilles' mercy is ultimately based on despair. He's not hopeful. He's saying, we're all going to die, so let's be nice for a minute before the darkness takes us. It's a truce. It's a temporary ceasefire. It's not a cure.
The poem ends with a funeral. It ends with Tefon.
It ends at the grave. The truce that Achilles grants is for 11 days. On the 12th day, they will start killing each other again. Achilles is still fated to die. Priam will eventually be hacked to death on his own altar when Troy falls. The whole city will burn.
It's ultimately hopeless in the long run.
It is. The Iliad takes us right up to the edge of the grave and leaves us there. It poses the problem perfectly. Death is the end, and rage is our nature. Is there any way out of this cycle?
And the gospel answer is?
The gospel starts where the Iliad ends. It also features a mutilated body and weeping women and a tomb. All the elements are there. But it doesn't end with Tefon, with burial. It ends with anastasis, resurrection.
So while Achilles can conquer his own rage for a moment, he cannot conquer death.
Precisely. The source we looked at quotes Colossians 2.15 about how Christ on the cross was triumphing over the powers and authorities. Achilles makes a temporary deal with the powers of death and vengeance. Christ defeats them utterly. So the Christian looks at the Iliad and says, I see the beauty of the reconciliation. I see the profound call to recognize the dignity of the enemy. But I also see the desperate need for a savior who can do more than just grant us a funeral.
That is a powerful distinction. It honors the text, but puts it in its proper place.
It makes the Iliad a magnificent question, and the gospel the only sufficient answer.
We've covered a massive amount of ground. From the plague arrows in Book 1 all the way to the weeping in the tent in Book 24.
It's a journey every thinking person should take at least once. It really is.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with that one final provocative thought you hinted at in our pre-show notes. It's about the city and about mourning.
Yes, this is something to chew on.
Okay, so the poem ends with the Trojans burying Hector. By doing that, by performing the funeral rites, by accepting his death, they are publicly acknowledging that their protector is gone.
Right, it's an admission. Hector is dead, and we are now burying him.
But practically speaking, once Hector is buried, Troy is doomed. He was the wall. The funeral of Hector is, in a way, the acceptance of the future fall of Troy.
They are mourning their greatest defender, and in doing so, they are unconsciously preparing for their entire city to be destroyed.
And there is a Christian echo there, isn't there? This idea, the city of man versus the city of God.
There absolutely is. To enter the new city, the new Jerusalem, you have to mourn the old one. You have to die to self. You have to bury the old man. You have to accept that your own defenses, your pride, your anger, your self-reliance, your Hector are dead and gone.
Just like the Trojans had to let go of Hector to face their ultimate fate, we have to let go of our rights and our rage to face God.
That's it. The mourning is the gateway to the new reality. The funeral comes before the new life.
So, a final thought for you to take away. Read book 24. Don't skip it. And read it as a mirror. Ask yourself, am I stuck in the tent with my rage? Am I nursing my grievances while the world burns? Or am I ready to cross the enemy lines, to kiss the hands of the one who hurt me, and to make peace at the foot of our shared mortality?
It's the ultimate question, really.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.